Cowboys Commanders. Dallas favored by 7. Some thoughts about resting, but the Cowboys are focused on getting the W. Here's Dak.
We got to win. The focus first and foremost is win. Play well, yes, and build momentum. And if we win the division title, that's not necessarily up to us at this point. We've just got to go win and take care of our business. But, yeah, that would be great. I mean, you don't play the game checking up every quarter to see what that other score is. You've got to play and, as I always say, be where your feet are, and being focused and just making sure that we're, as I've said, stacking good things and clean up things from last week and be better this week to make sure that we're hitting this thing full stride.
Okay, what do you need to see from Dak?
Okay, so I think what everyone's answer would be is don't throw picks.
That was mine.
Yeah,
you took mine.
That's sorry.
Short segment.
So here's the thing.
Got mine too. I'm done.
I don't necessarily mind if he throws a pick. It's the type of picks he's been throwing. So I think that we've seen some of the, and Dak is obviously not in their category, but aside from Aaron Rodgers, almost all of the, and Patrick Mahomes prior to this year, almost all of the best quarterbacks are also near the league lead in interceptions. Peyton Manning always was. Obviously, Favre notoriously was. Guys that take a lot of shots and try to hit a lot of tight window throws, they're going to throw some picks. I can deal with that. I can deal with the downside of the occasional turnover because I'm getting the upside of the super explosive play, and you're getting more explosive plays than the turnovers. What I can't deal with is the picks inside your own 10 and inside the opponent's 10, which is what we have seen over the last few months, where he has thrown picks that have set the other team up for instant scores, or he has thrown picks that have taken points off the board. If you're around midfield and it's 3rd and 8, and you're like, okay, this is going to be a punt anyway, let me try to fit this in there, and you make a mistake, so be it. But he has thrown some back-breaking interceptions that I don't think the Cowboys, forget this game, against Tampa Bay, are going to be able to overcome. So you want to see him start to clean that up this week, Coach.
And I understand what you're saying about the best quarterbacks being somewhere close to the lead in interceptions, but you're talking about a guy who has historically thrown very few interceptions. That's been one of his greatest strengths, and you're seeing a trend here. 3 out of his last 4 games, he's got 2, right?
Yep.
So then the other game, where you thought was only 1 interception, he's sacked 6 times. So it's that trend that really bothers you right now. It's not been over the course of the season. It's trending right now. So what I'd have to see from Dak is a much cleaner game across the board. And look, interceptions are bad wherever they show up because they typically lead to points. But it's the volume that he's throwing them at right now that's the biggest issue.
Coach, Dak is very kind of cool, calm, and collected post-game after these interceptions. He's like, it happens, I move on to the next play, which I think is a benefit to sort of have a short memory. At the same time, it keeps happening and happening. Can he flip the switch and be like, you know what, the priority of this game is don't throw interceptions? Because Josh pulled up this graphic of what Stafford was doing at the end of last year. Weeks 15 to 18, turning the ball over. Then you get to the playoffs, you don't. Now, maybe that's just luck. Maybe it's scheme. Maybe it's him making a decision on prioritizing ball control, but is that something that Dak can flip a switch on?
Well, I don't know if it's flipping a switch, but he has shown the ability to not throw interception. This is more of a trend. This is more of an aberration than it is what he typically is.
My only qualification there would be you didn't have as much explosives, and you didn't have the league-leading passer, league leaders in points the way they've been the past couple years. Early in his career when he was great with ball security. So that's where I do think there's a bit of a devil's bargain of the interceptions are naturally going to tick up a bit because they are trying to become more explosive. They don't run the ball as much as some people would like, and so they're going to put the ball in jeopardy some. I think it is trying to thread that needle, which right now Dak's been erring on the wrong side.
And don't press. He presses too much, and that's typically when it leads to picks too.
Coming up next, can Goff outplay Aaron Rodgers? I think so. Oh, I ruined the segment.
What are you doing?
I'm sorry.
You're going to have to sit this one out.
Podcast promo read coming up in 85 minutes. It's first things first on today's show. Byron Leftwich says people are throwing dirt on the Bucs. Why Nick still thinks the Bucs are super dangerous in the playoffs. Meanwhile, one NFL legend compared Brock Purdy to Patrick Mahomes. Why Nick Wright hates this, and spoiler alert, it was Steve Young. And finally, which panelist who is covered in fur and lives in a log has the Packers on upset alert? Stay tuned. In for Chris Broussard, it's Super Bowl winning coach Eric Mangini. I'm Kevin Wildes. Nick Wright, are you participating in Upset Alert? Or are you bailing out after such a rough week?
You literally went to our bosses and demanded I be banned from Upset Alert. Literally happened Tuesday at 6 p.m. So I guess America will find out who's got the yeah, exactly right.
But we start with some emotional news and some logistical news. We're going to start with the emotion. Bill's Twitter feed reporting that DeMar Hamlin FaceTimed into the team meeting today to talk to players and coaches, told them that he loved him. Deion Dawkins later said to see him smile and flex his biceps in the camera, it was everything. So great news coming out of Cincinnati and Buffalo. Nick, your reaction?
It is unbelievable.
It's great.
I mean, this was the scariest thing the vast majority or all of us have ever seen on an NFL field. And that was Monday. And it's Friday. And so they took him off the ventilator, which is why he could talk. We heard yesterday about how he wrote, did we win the game? And I think we were all, a lot of us didn't know exactly how to talk about this because we knew that on the field he had gotten CPR and he had made it to the hospital, but we didn't know what the next days and weeks and months were going to look like for him. And Coach, I don't think it's too early to say. It looks like we are trending towards the best case scenario. And the one thing that stuck with me was when we were talking about it on Tuesday, and we talked about the CPR on the field and the defibrillation and the people who saved his life, those medical professionals, and even the team equipment manager that quickly got his face mask off. They all helped save his life. And I know a lot of people have said this recently on television. I'll add myself to that chorus. Those of us that don't know CPR, it was a good reminder of, hey, you can take a class and learn it. So if you're ever in a situation, but I just think it's so wonderful that this is where we're at right now.
Yeah, it was incredible. That feeling of sadness that we all had as we watched from the field, and then realizing how serious it was as they were administering CPR and being so thankful that those people were in place to do that, and then checking it seemed like every 4 or 5 minutes I would check to see if there was any updates, and to hear he was responding, then to hear that he had been able to reach out to his family and hold their hand and then write something, and now for him to be able to communicate to the team, it's amazing. It's bigger than any sports story that we could ever cover, and really happy for him and his family, and excited to see him recover and get back to
life,
full speed, and yeah.
Well said, everyone. Our thoughts are still with DeMar as this road to recovery continues. We're going to switch gears to the logistical news now. NFL owners this afternoon approved changes to the playoff schedule since Bills-Bengals game will not be rescheduled. Biggest news, AFC Championship game will be at a neutral site if the top teams have played unequal games. So that means, depending on this week's outcome, we could see Bills-Chiefs neutral site or Bengals-Chiefs in a neutral site.
Yeah, and listen, there was no perfect solution here. Mm-hmm. With all of the possible floated options, there was going to be a yeah, but attached to it. Because this was not only an unprecedented situation, but there was no easy fix to the logistical side of it, which is what we're talking about here. I've got to give the NFL credit. I personally believe they picked the best possible and fairest possible option. And I understand, if you're a Bills fan and you're like, man, we were going to win that game and we're going to beat the Patriots, we were going to host this. I get it. And if you're a Chiefs fan and you're like, oh, the Bengals were winning and we were going to, or by the way, if you're a Bengals fan, you're like, hold on, we got to do a coin flip to have any home playoff. I understand that there are some imperfections there, but there was I've seen people talk about this for 3 days. I'm yet to see someone present, here's the one that is perfect for all parties. So I think they did as good of a job as they possibly could have. I'm going to add one suggestion to the league. It seems like they are trending towards whatever the neutral site is. Indianapolis, I've heard. Atlanta, I've heard. Mm-hmm. Those are domed stadiums. Cincinnati, Buffalo, and Kansas City are all outdoor teams, and they're all cold weather teams, but outdoor teams. I would suggest this game be played outdoors at a neutral site, and Sam Monson had the idea of Pro Football Focus that if it is two of these three teams, and it has to be at a neutral site, whichever team is not in the game, that's the stadium it's at. So if it's Kansas City Buffalo, the game's in Cincinnati. If it's Cincinnati, I guess if it's Cincinnati Buffalo, this wouldn't come into play. But if it's Cincinnati Kansas City, the game's in Buffalo. And those, and you can disperse the tickets how it is. But that's the only. But even if it is in a dome, I think that's fine. I think it's the best they could have done.
Yeah, whenever you're in a situation like this where there's nothing to draw on and you've got to try to figure out what the best answer is, there's always going to be those people that are a little frustrated with how the outcome is established. But I agree. This is